Some watch histories tell you what happened, some tell you when it happened, and then there are histories that tell you why it mattered. Not just watchmakers, but to the culture, to the craft, and identity across centuries. The Secrets of Vacheron Constantin does exactly that. It goes beyond dates and movements to reveal the hidden architecture of one of the world's oldest manufactories, a house that has shaped how we think about time itself across 250 years that this was published and 270 years today. Today we're talking about the behind the curtain of that story when it was published 250 years of Vacheron Constantin. And this beautiful book is authored by Franco Colloni, one of the foremost specialists of horological history. He is a historian with deep roots documenting craftsmanship and luxury culture, and this volume is not a shallow brand celebration. It's evidence-driven narrative grounded in archives and analysis. It's published in 2005 to commemorate Vacheron Constantin's 250th anniversary, but this book was designed to also mark not just the longevity but also institutional depth and cultural relevance of Vacheron Constantin. This is far more than a picture book. It's an archive-anchored case study, richly illustrated with specially commissioned photography. It traces the technical artistry, creative evolution, and cultural context of Vacheron Constantin's output. It's part narrative, it's part visual catalog, and part interpretive survey. But the book offers a narrative history of the Maison's evolution, detailed catalog of emblematic timepieces, and explorations of techniques and artistry. But it gives you a clear view of the logic behind the watches that Vacheron Constantin produced. The first part of the book places the Maison's origin in context. The mid-18th century in Geneva, when Jean-Marc Vacheron founded his workshop. It was year 1755, and it reflects the spirit of enlightenment and early mechanical precision. From there, the narrative moves through major historical shifts: the dawn of industrialization, aesthetic evolutions like the Art Deco, international taste revolution, 19th century complications, 20th century wristwatch growth, late century haute horologerie refinement. This is not a simple timeline. It's a story of how one manufacturer adapted, learned, and influenced watchmaking over 2.5 centuries. One of the richest layers of the Secrets of Vacheron Constantin is its attention to specialized crafts. The author explores not just finished watches, but how case making and dial making evolved, how guilloche, enameling, and engraving added meaning, why mechanisms like the perpetual calendars and minute repeaters represented symbolic ingenuity as much as technical success, and how watchmakers and artisans worked together as co-creators of identity and of value. This isn't dry documentation, it's a cultural interpretation of the objects itself, a crucial lens for understanding why certain watches have endured in meaning and in relevance. Rather than presenting watches as isolated objects, Colloni treats them as texts, objects that speak to their era. Art Deco's wristwatches reflect the modernist break with tradition, for example. 19th century complications signal prestige and status across continents. In this way, the book links timekeeping to identity, to power, and to taste, showing not just how the watch worked, but why it existed in its particular form and its particular moment. The book title isn't hype. It promises and delivers secrets, why certain technical paths were chosen over others, for example, how decorative arts became inseparable from mechanical functions, what trade networks and patronage systems supported the Maison, and how Vacheron Constantin's objects played roles in personal and institutional narratives across generations and across borders. This level of interpretation is rare in brand books, especially one that spans 2.5 centuries. Here's where the political and social reading crystallizes. A watchmaker operating continuously since 1755 doesn't just make products, it shapes material culture across political regimes. It shapes material cultures across economic revolutions, and it shapes them across artistic movements. In the eras described by this book, a Vacheron Constantin watch wasn't just a timekeeper, it was a symbol of authority and of belonging, worn by influential figures, commissioned by elites, and serving as a marker of taste and identity in social strata. This is how watches became instruments of soft power, objects that silently communicate who matters and why do they matter. The value of the Secrets of Vacheron Constantin is not only historical, it's interpretive. Collectors use it as a reference for why specific pieces matter, to understand design lineage, to map craft evolution, and to see how watches, objects intersect with each other. Many later Maison histories have drawn from this archival foundation that this book laid back 20 years ago in 2005. Here's the truth that stays with you after reading. Most watch books tell you what was made. This book tells you why it had to be made. In that form, at that time, for those patrons. It transformed watches from cold objects into narrative agents in human history. So, what is the secret of Vacheron Constantin 200 years of history then? It is part archive, part interpretive history, it's part a cultural manifesto, it is a book about time, about context, and about meaning, not just mechanisms and calibers. But I'm curious, which era in Vacheron Constantin's long story resonates with you the most and why? Do you see watches as tool symbols or cultural artifacts? And which watch book should we explore next? Drop me a comment, send me a message, because at the end, watches aren't just machines, they are stories we wear. This is Watches and Politics. Subscribe, share it with a collector who loves context, and I'll see you in the next chapter.